So this is Baruch Fleischman, and this is a featured shir that I'm doing right now and trying to learn this material. It's extremely poetic and extremely beautiful in all of its encompassing. It's the work called Likutei Moharan by the world famous Rabbi Nachman of Breslev. So there are so many things to be said about Rabbi Nachman, but here we're learning right the meat of what Rabbi Nachman wants to teach us. So let's go over here and we'll make a little review of what Rabbi Nachman says. And as you see the words, I think I could bring this down lower and have it work. You're going to see some of the ideas, the origins of these ideas have been around before because you see them manifest now in our age in the works of Aryeh Kaplan. And then you come over and you see Rabbi Yosef Chaim Mimran, and then you come and you see Rabbi Yaakov Cronenberg, all these different people, the things they have to say. Again, a book written in the 1800s, the early 1800s, before 1810, dictated from Rabbi Nachman to his disciple, Reb Nosson. So now we come over here and we see some more. We're going to go back over a little bit because the metaphors keep rolling. So he says, for the Jew must always focus on the inner intelligence of every matter. Now he's looking at in terms of intelligence. The godliness, which is really the godliness, but he focused particularly on the concept of the letter ches or chen, the concept of grace that comes as a result of learning Torah. So as a result of that, there is something special inside of the person. That's what the Torah brings into a person. And as a result of that, that special can be seen other places too. And bind himself to the wisdom and intelligence that is being found in each thing. This is so that the intelligence which is in each thing may enlighten him. And I said that looking at some other works that we've seen, that this is actually a connection between your inner intelligence, and which is your neshama, and the neshama that's inside of whatever thing you're looking at, that he may draw closer to God through that, because the neshama is a part of the God from up above. For the inner intelligence is a great light that shines for a person in all his ways. As it is stated, in a person's wisdom causes his countenance to shine. So as a result of that, and bringing in all of these wonderful things from the outside, that is the ability to be able to see the seichel, it's also happening on the inside of you. This is the concept. He says this whole idea of being able to see the panemius is the concept of Yaakov. For Yaakov merited the rights of the firstborn. What's that do for you? Which is Rashis. Rashis goes with the concept of Chochmah, which is the concept of wisdom, which is the concept of Chochmah. So we have this phrase, Rashis Chochmah. The beginning is Chochmah. There's a lot of different ways in which Chochmah is the beginning. Then he says, as it says in the Psalm, the Rashis is wisdom. The beginning is wisdom. So in other words, in order to be able to accomplish something in this world, as we listen to, say, like Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, who's talking about really what our purpose is in the world, and then the techniques that we're learning from Rabbi Mimran. Then I'm thinking about this, stretch it on into Rabbi Yaakov Cronenberg. Is that the world that we live in is a series of cycles. And we don't notice it because we don't have the time perhaps to look and see that all of where we live, everything that we have is built on a foundation of a ball, giant ball, in relationship to us, that's turning. So all of this has to be thought about, and this requires wisdom, some direction to be able to perceive this. This corresponds to Yakveni these two times. Now exactly what this means, comes from what Esav, in whose midst I currently am living in one of his countries. The Yakveni, you obstructed me, you held me back these two times, which Onkelos renders, he outwitted me. So now exactly how does this fit together? How does that work with the concept of seeing the seichel and everything? And this is the concept of sun. Now he said the sun, like it shines, right? It's a shiner. For the inner intelligence shines for him in all his ways like the sun. So it's the power of the sun. Now, in Kabbalah, Yaakov Avinu represents the middle line. So he reps the line of blending. And it's also understood to be the sun. It's the Chama. It's the Shemesh. So the middle line shines. Where does it need to shine to? It needs to shine to Malchus. This corresponds to the path of the righteous is like radiant sunlight. So he says, what is the righteous? So the word righteous, let me see what he has over here in the V'orach Tzadikim. So what's a tzaddik? So in Kabbalah, tzaddik represents Yesod. So the middle line, at the end of the middle line, is the place of the transfer of the shefa from up above, which is into Yesod, and that is the tzaddik. So he says, and this is the concept where he said the path of the righteousness, so the path that leads you to righteousness, which is the Yesod, is like radiant light. It's referring to Zeir Anpin, shining ever brighter as it approaches noon. Now this concept of noon, Nachon Hayom, he says, he calls it in Hebrew the Nachon Hayom. So he says, and this is the concept of the letter Chet, which is the number which refers to the 8th letter. And it suggests the concept of chiyuv, or light, chiyus. He put with T on it. So in Ashkenaz we pronounce it chiyus, of life force. Because it's the first letter of the word chai. For the wisdom, and it also is the first letter of the word chokhmah. So he says, for the wisdom and the inner intelligence are vitality of all, or the vitality of all things. In other words, what made the chiyus, that's another word for chiyus. The vitality is actually a Latin-based word, but a word like vita, or vita, or vida in Spanish. For the wisdom and the inner intelligence are the vitality of all things, as in wisdom gives life to those who possess it. So the first letter here, the first letter is the letter Ches, and that letter Ches brings strength over here. And it brings the possibility to be able to connect to that same letter Ches, which is everywhere, because inside there's a seichel, an intelligence in everything. So here he's talking about the intelligence, or the mind, or if it's beyond, I don't like the word mind because it's being, we're using a different sense elsewhere. He said, but it is the ultimate mind. However, because the light of the inner intelligence is so very great, that light is a very powerful light. It's a light of nothingness. It is not a physical light. It's the opposite of it. It is impossible to attain it except through the concept of nun. So now he's building a word. So the Rebbe is doing here. A Kabbalistic word, which has the letter Ches, which represents intelligence, and then the letter Nun, which is also number 50. So if you had 50, if we said that Bina was a Nun, so Bina was the 50th gate, well, you count from Bina, you downwards, you get to Malchus, which is an aspect of Malchus. So he says that the letter Nun is an aspect of Malchus and is written, and so now he quotes, the Rebbe quotes a pasuk, and he says, may his name Yinun. So this is actually, you have to look at the Hebrew. It's a Lifnei Shemes Yinun Shemo. So he translated it, may his name Yinun be perpetuated as long as the sun. And Rashi explains that Yinun means kingship. Kingship refers to Malchus. This is also the concept of the moon. That's what I think. I think it refers to Malchus. So let's see as we're going along. For the moon has no light of her own. So he says that this is the concept of kingship. So actually, I'm going to take it back, because I knew that right there was getting into it. Malchus is Lashon king. But here, I think the kingship here more likely refers to Zeir Anpin, which is a straight line. That's the line which has the righteous at the end of it, which is called the Yesod, to connect with Malchus. Now he says that this idea of kingship, now I think he means to say, that, he's going to talk about a yichud, to make this come together. That is the light of the sun together with the light of the moon. This is also the concept of the moon, for the moon has no light of her own. This is always said, Ein l'gorma klum. This is a very common Kabbalistic statement. Only that which you receive from the sun. And this corresponds to Malchus. So their Malchus is really the same as the sun in a certain sense, only one part removed because it has the sun shining into it, and so therefore its interior is made out of sun. It is nothing of its own other than what it receives from the Chet. So in other words, this is the language in Kabbalah of a yichud between Chochmah and Bina. Chochmah is male, Bina is female. Chochmah is the original intelligence, and he plants it in the female, just like we see that we understand living together between man and woman. And let's finish up this little piece right now. The aspect of wisdom, sun, as a result, the light of the moon will be like of the sun. They come into oneness. This is Lashon Yichud. But there, of course, is more for the Rebbe to talk about, and we'll see that next time.